Welcome to Ask the Accountant, the podcast that is made for you. Weekly podcast live Mondays from 8:30 a.m., released on the podcast service of your choice on Wednesdays. Your main weekly hosts, Aaron Patrick and Johann Gary. Got something to ask? Submit your questions below or ask during the show. Podcast loading. We are currently getting everything set up behind the scenes, so sit back, relax, and we will be with you in a few seconds. Enjoy.
Absolute amateur. Forgot to take it off. Anyway, good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Ask the Accountant, episode number 30. The date is the 15th of May, 2023. And today is going to be about one thing and one thing only, really, isn't it? Something happened last week, something quite exciting. I think we might as well cover it. Before we get into that, though, my co-host is here, as always. Johann, how has your weekend been?
Good morning, Aaron. Yeah, nice chilled weekend. Feet up, recovering from the event of the week. You know what's most traumatic about the whole thing? Is I've been on holiday and walked like 20, 30,000 steps in a day, looking at tourist sites and stuff, and my legs and feet have hurt less doing that than doing 10,000 steps in a day at a Countex. So, yeah, 2 days on your feet is hard work, to say the least.
And as Paul says, have we both recovered? Go on, Jan, you go first.
Physically, just about. Mentally, I'm getting there.
There was a lot, wasn't there? There was a lot to take in. Hopefully you're all well, Paul. And speaking of Paul and everyone else, hello to everyone who is talking to us live. Remember, we go live at 8:30 a.m. each and every Monday morning, including bank holidays. And we are here to talk to you and ask questions as we go along. So if you do have a burning question, stick it in the comments. If you're not listening to us live, though, then that means you're listening to us on one of the podcast services of choice, which we go live on a Wednesday. We've got more coming in as well. We've got Kirsty. Good morning, Kirsty. And anyone else who's live, please do put a comment in there. All right, we're going to keep it really straightforward today. It's simple. We're just going to talk about Accountex because, what a show it was. 2 full days. I mean, technically for us, it was, 2.5, you'd say, would you? Because, we had to get there the day before.
Well, that's it. Yeah, you get there the day before, don't you? And I mean, I was due to come back on the Friday, but I had to come back on the Thursday due to train strikes and chaos on the train lines. But yeah, it's a long 2.5 days. Very long 2.5 days. And it's just overwhelmed of all your senses for that whole period of time. It's, really, really challenging, to say the least.
The amazing thing is, it's a long 2.5 days, yet I still went away thinking, I forgot to do X. I forgot to do Y. I was supposed to go see so-and-so. And yeah, it's amazing how, yes, it's long and it is a full 2 days, but still not enough time, is it? Not with a conference that size.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many people I said I wanted to go and see, I wanted to go and catch up with. So many people reaching out to me on LinkedIn, I'll pop by and have a chat with us, blah, blah, blah. None of that happened. And I've seen quite a few posts on LinkedIn where people are a bit upset that they've not managed to do everything they wanted to plan and they're kicking themselves. I think we've done these events for how many years now, and we've still not mastered it properly and managed to do everything we wanted to do and plan everything in. I think you just take it as it goes. I don't think anyone's too worried, and just deal with it and move on.
Exactly right. Paul suggests that maybe we should do it in 3 days. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure.
I don't think I can handle it. I don't know if I can handle 3 days physically or mentally. I mean, we made it more difficult for ourselves, didn't we, by speaking on both days, doing a live podcast on the end of day one, and doing the social media takeover for QuickBooks, and on top of that, getting all the media content we wanted for the upcoming weeks. And we didn't stop, put it that way.
No, not once. And we'll go through exactly what our experience was in a moment. Stuart says, first Accountex this year, coming from Devon. sheer scale of it is miles away from normality. Great event, though. Certainly is a great event. And glad to see that you got your first Accountex under your belt. Hopefully it's first of many there, Stuart. So yeah, let's talk about our experience then. Yeah, so we turned up on the day before. And the reason we had to is because we had quite a few commitments, didn't we? Yeah, and we had quite a few things that we needed to get done. And I remember saying this time last week, I was joking around saying, "Oh well, we've got 3 different passes, and ha ha ha, blah blah blah." Well, actually, that exhibitor pass was an absolute game changer for us, wasn't it? It gave us that little bit of extra. I was calling Mickey hours or whatever you want to call them. So it was little extra hours. But I think without those extra hours, we wouldn't be able to achieve what we achieved, would we?
No, I mean, we've got some fantastic content. We've got a whole new thing coming out, haven't we? Because we had that exhibitor pass. And I think, that was a absolute game changer for us for accessibility, sound control. Even when we were going around filming between like 8 and 9:30, 10 o'clock, whenever it opened, the noise levels were up there. But we could get some good content created without the crowds behind us.
Yeah, exactly. It was completely surreal at first, wasn't it? When we first walked into that conference hall, and we've done it a few times, both me and you, and that first time when you walk in is so overwhelming, especially when there's all those people around. But it's eerily even more overwhelming when you walk in and there's nobody there. At one point, there were just the security dogs walking around, wasn't there?
That's it. On day 2, we were there pretty much before all the exhibitors because we weren't all jaded from the night before. Because I mean, even on the night before, we were technically working, weren't we? Because we were going around taking advantage of the slightly tipsy software providers to get the inside scoop. So yeah, even then we were working, but we got there that early that the security guys were going around with the drug dogs and the explosive dogs, checking everything was going to be safe for us, which I think that even that's a behind the scenes thing that you just don't take into account for these conferences, is how phenomenally secure they are and how well organized they are.
Yeah, without doubt. And it was interesting as well because we were invited by QuickBooks to talk at the stand and also do the social media takeover. So we kind of, it was, for me, definitely was my first working Accountex. I've attended many a conference before where we've kind of had bits to do here and there, but this felt like we were literally part of the QuickBooks team. It was brilliant. We were able to, that was our base, and we kept going backwards and forwards from it. Now, one thing though that was really interesting to see was just how well organized, just even the QuickBooks side of thing. Accountex is a whole beast, and we'll talk about it on Wednesday. For anyone who doesn't know, we're doing a bit of a behind the scenes talk about recap over on Ashley's channel on Wednesday, and we'll definitely dive into there about kind of how Accountex itself is going. But I think what really stood out for me was just take into those little micro ecosystems, the QuickBooks stand, how well organized that was. There was people had their roles and knew exactly what to do. We saw the people behind the scenes doing the technical stuff, even the things like the monitors being put on in a position way, and the sound testing we got to see and all that sort of stuff. It's just, I think, as a when we were just consumers and just walking in there and being amazed at it all, it's like, wow, but when you see every little intricate detail that goes into place, it's absolutely mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And these tech guys are getting their crack of dawn. They're running the live shows and speeches for us. Then they're packing it all away and securing it all for the nighttime. It's a long day for them as well.
Yeah, and it was I mean, the stand literally is just made up of wood and everything else, isn't it? And it was interesting because it was the same stand as last year, so I imagine it was stored somewhere and brought back the next time. You imagine that's how it works. But it was really, really interesting to see how it works. So just to give everyone kind of a update of how we had tackled Accountex our end. So we got there nice and early, 8 o'clock, wasn't it, that we got there?
Yep.
And we started our whole process of doing the behind the scenes takeover. Safe to say we both learned a lot on how to do takeovers going forward. Like, it was our first attempt at it. And I'm sure QuickBooks has learned a thing or two as well about how to, construct that going forward and how that should work. But it was a really exciting, and it gave us that buzz throughout the whole account, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it felt like we were members of the media, going up, interviewing people, getting insights and stuff. It made the whole event really exciting from a very different perspective for us, which was fantastic.
Yeah, and I think what really got me about like that whole aspect there was thinking about it in a different way. Like it's, it wasn't just when we've been to conferences before where we've gone, oh, let's get a bit of this and a bit of that, but this was every 5 minutes we're thinking, oh, we should really cover that. Oh, well, someone's going to need to know about. Oh, well, what about this one? And it just completely put a spin on like what we were thinking about. It wasn't just from our eyes, but we were trying to figure out, well, how can we also get that in a really good light? And well, what about how are people going to know where the QuickBooks stand is? Surely we're going to show them and walk them to it and items like that. And it just, I thought it was really interesting the way that we were able to just kind of think of new ways of trying to throw this together. And again, like short form content isn't our thing, is it? Like normally we're long form content and podcasts, and there's no way we could ever do a 15-minute podcast like Ashley. I mean, he doesn't either, but we're not short form content connoisseurs. So having to think about it in that sort of way was quite different as well. Wasn't quite eye opener, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was definitely a different mindset to create short form content. Having said that, I think we've come away with some fantastic long form content. Shall we explain our new
go for the
content? So what we did on day 2, we got there cracker morning, and we actually did what we called the grid walk. So we took this inspiration from the F1 because Aaron and I are both big F1 fans. And at an F1 race, once the cars are all on the grid, there's lots of celebrities, bigwigs, all the heads of all different driving companies are sat there. And Martin Brundle starts from the back and he walks all his way, giving you insights and insider knowledge and stuff and talking to various people. So that's what we did on day 2, wasn't it? We did the grid walk. I mean, was it like 17 minutes worth of footage in the end? And that was quite brisk, and we weren't doing too many interviews and stuff. But I absolutely loved that. I can't wait to be able to go and do that at Digital Accountancy Show in a month's time. So yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was a really good concept. And again, we just thought of it off the top of our head, wasn't it? It was, because we were in that mindset of trying to think of new ways and keeping people engaged. It was really, really interesting. Ashley, cannot wait till Wednesday either. We've already plugged it. You missed the plug, so we've already been there. We can't do it again. No. Definitely. Wednesday, we're looking forward to being on Ashley's channel and talking all things Accountex one more time. So no, really, really excited for that one. But I mean, that whole concept of the grid walk idea, I think one thing we did wrong on this one being the first time we ever did it, we did it too early, didn't we? There wasn't enough people around. I think you're right. If we can absolutely get that at the right key point where people are just kind of warming up, just ready there, and we're kind of almost talking to them. And it is that concept. Like you think about a grid walk is about talking to the drivers just before they race and just before they go off on it. If we can get to the people at the vendors and talk to them maybe before they talk, before they really open up, or especially if they've got some announcements to make and they're kind of a bit jittery about how this announcement's going to be and everything like that. I think that's when we can really get to see some great, honest content from it. And I think that's what excites me about that concept.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then on top of all of that, it's just meeting everyone who were in the comments, like Mark Jones didn't know Aaron was that tall in real life. Sue Green turned around to me and said, "Oh, Johann, you're shorter than I expected you to be." And that's the beauty of, we're building an audience virtually, and that's fantastic. But then we meet in person, and it's always great to hear our listeners and viewers' opinions on it and stuff like that. I didn't get to see Kirsty, but she's in here. She was just saying how noisy it was and how hard to have a chat it was. But yeah, we met Paul. We met loads of people that are really big fans of the podcast, and that's just fantastic. That's the kind of stuff that makes you go, yeah, let's carry on doing this.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's kind of recap or carry on the recap of what we've done. So we arrived there day one. We got to go behind the scenes. We got to enjoy that. And then doors opened and everyone came in. And then really we had an hour to go until our first talk of the session. So you got to go on first. And thankfully for us as well, we got JV was talking first at the QuickBooks stand. And I don't know about you, but last time the QuickBooks stand, in my mind, and maybe I just misremember it, but this time last year, I felt like the talks at the QuickBooks stand were just something that was happening in the background. People were just kind of, while they're at the stand, they were just kind of watching it, like, okay, yeah, but then carrying on doing what they're doing. It was almost like you didn't go to the stand just for the talk. It was just a nice little addition at the stand itself. Where this time it felt like there was a lot of people actually, they'd booked time in it. They were there, especially like the first one, JV's one. There was quite a few people there, weren't they, from day one, already there, sat down, waiting to take it all in. And I thought that was a great little what do you call it as well? There was great little insight there, or great little kind of experience to see people like actually come into the stand. It gave a reason for people to be at the QuickBooks stand, and then once they were there, that's when they kind of got to play the games or get the swag or talk to some of the others about, some of the stuff they've just heard about. And I thought that was, I thought that worked really well. And I felt like it worked better than the previous year. Am I misremembering it? Or is that how it was?
No, I do think the attendance was much, much better at the QuickBooks stand sessions this year than previous years. Now, was that because they had better content and more people were more interested? Or was it because the lineups for those mini stages, as it were, got announced earlier, whereas no one really knew about the mini stages before the event last year?
Yeah, exactly.
So you could put it into your planning this year. I think they were much better attended. There was crowds waiting for people to go on, and when people were speaking, the crowds got bigger. So yeah, I think it was a fantastic mini stage to have, and because Zero had one as well. Who else had them?
I mean, I assume Sage had one.
I think Sage had one, yeah. So yeah, there's quite a few of these mini stands, which I think were well attended from all videos and footage I'm seeing of them, and from what we saw live on the 2 days.
Yeah, it was brilliant, wasn't it? It really was. And I think, from our personal experience, we felt like maybe it was too short. I mean, maybe that's the only feedback we could kind of give to.
Well, we've just said, haven't we? Short form content is not our forte at all. But 20 minutes, especially when you're regurgitating a session that you and I had already delivered for an hour at QuickBooks Connect. Day one, I felt I did a terrible job. Day two, I felt happier with the outcome. But yeah, when you've got a 60-minute session, you've got to rip out 2/3 of it, but you want to keep all the valuable parts, then you have to work out which parts you felt were more valuable. Then when you're talking and delivering it, in your mind, you're like, right, when I was talking about this, I was at this time marker in my 60-minute show, but I can't remember where I am in my 20-minute show. So yeah, it was difficult, but it was very, very good.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, my biggest criticism, I remember telling you, was the fact that for me, a lot of my talk is, all right, let's build up to this crescendo, or this wow moment. And the whole point of my talk is that I go, oh, you got this problem. Oh, well, there's a solution, and here's the wow to fix it. The problem is I couldn't show that wow. I just couldn't kind of explain it. And the amount of times I said, well, go talk to someone over there, they'll show it you. It's like, you lose that impetus on it. But we were dealing with the time slot we had, and everything that went with it. I think overall, though, people were really happy with it. We had, like you said before, we had a lot of people there. I think by far the biggest attended, though, was AJ's LinkedIn one, wasn't it? Like that was. They were people pushing each other out of the way to get to the thing. It was crazy. It was a really
exciting to see my profile on the screen.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. But no, it was a very, very good good session, that one. And I think overall, I think the fact that we were based at the QuickBooks stand because of the work we were doing for them and because of the talks and everything else, that was our HQ, and we kept going backwards and forwards. But every time we were going there, it was always like a buzz around it. There was always people there busy. I mean, thanked in part, I suppose, to all the recent announcements at QuickBooks Connect. I mean, that would have been part and parcel of it, and the fact there was kind of a a buzz around that. But I think overall, it was just it just felt like there was quite a nice buzz around it. And then if we kind of go towards the end of day one, we had our live podcast, didn't we? We went over to the Theatre 11 or 13.
Theatre 11.
Theatre 11. We got an opportunity to talk there and give our live podcast there, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I know you absolutely loved it. I know it was one of your what do you call it, but I thought that whole idea of it. We were talking before. It was Battle of the Podcast. We're trying to bring up that sort of aspect of it, and in my mind, thinking 5 o'clock, I thought, you know what, there'll be a few people there. It's going to be towards the end of the show, there'll just be a couple of dedicated fans there. It'll be fine. That's what we're excited. But no, we had a sellout room, and it was brilliant, wasn't it? And like Paul said, we got opportunity to shout out to people who actually are regulars of the show and everything else. So I think it was a really good moment. And for saying that this time last year there wasn't Ask the Accountant, I think it was just a really good way of just showing how far we've come, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you think, I remember speaking to Lizzie, who was there to help us with the tech and stuff, and I said to her, just be careful with your camera angles. I'm expecting quite a quiet room with a lot of empty chairs. So just make sure you angle it so it looks like there's a few heads in there, which means it might have been full with the cameras. And we didn't have to worry about that. Like, every seat was taken. People were stood around the back and the sides, and people were stood in the throwaway outside listening in. The buzz that we got from that was just phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, the fact that we went from there and then we went straight. We were invited to an event for QuickBooks for a kind of after party with them. Like you said, like the day just flew by. It was just we finished that. We didn't even have a time to really think about it. Like, no time to kind of take it all in or anything else. It was right, quickly pack up, quickly get ready, because we're already late for the next appointment and getting over to there. So we went over for our first of our after parties, went over to the Good Hotel and QuickBooks. And that actually worked quite well, didn't it? It was nice. Yeah. Kind of chilled it all out a little bit. We had a nice little meal. We got to talk, to certain members of QuickBooks that we don't normally get the opportunity to talk to, and kind of bring that sort of in. And I thought that was a really nice part of the day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a lovely way just to go and pause.
Yeah.
And chill, sit down. That was really, really appreciated, to be able to sit down. But yeah, it was fantastic just to be able to pause and go, that's day one done. And go.
Yeah, exactly.
So we did that. And then we went over to the Fox. Had a pint, one whole pint at the Fox. The queues for the bar were phenomenal. The noise inside was horrific. I mean, I'm sounding like a proper old person here, but overall, that was sensory overload for me. Like, I was so pleased they have that outside area, and you could just stand outside and not worry about the ear penetrating music inside. But yeah, we went to the Fox. We had a pint. We caught up with a few different people, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, shout on my end, I got to shout across the bar to Samantha Mitchum, a friend of the show who's been on the show before. And we both said, that's probably the only time we'll see each other during Accountex. And yes, it was.
It was.
And I think that's kind of sums up how it is at Accountex. It is so vast, so big. You just bump into people, don't you? And that's and you're grateful if you get to do that sometimes, because going through the conversation topic and people chatting in the chat now, like, people were missing each other. There wasn't opportunity to see everyone, and it's just such a vast thing, isn't it? So yeah, but the Fox was absolutely mayhem. Yeah, it was good. Well, I had to go at doing a TikTok video. I don't know about you, Johann. You were
No, I
tempted,
did
weren't
not.
you?
I
You were
sat
close.
watching, quite entertained. Yeah, I was quite entertained by you trying to be that energetic and able to jump and dance after such a long day. I mean, that was an achievement in itself.
I mean, shout out to Rachel. I think her creation clinic. We went there a couple of times, didn't we? Over the space today. Every time it was there was people there. There was a buzz around it. And for anyone who didn't know, the whole idea of the creation clinic was you literally turn up, you take your phone, and Rachel and her team basically create content with you that you show you how it's done. Maybe we should have done that first. Maybe that's where we went wrong. Right. How do I do a social media takeover? Go.
Yeah.
So,
Let's go ask the expert.
Exactly. And that was pretty much day 2. I mean, we went back to the hotel, didn't we, afterwards? People somehow carried on to other events that were still somehow letting people in and letting people go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
I think we were acutely aware, weren't we, that we'd already planned for breakfast at 7 and back at the event for 8 o'clock next morning. So we were extremely well behaved and reserved and just called it quits and went to bed.
Exactly. So then roll around for day 2, and that's where we, same again, but for us, it gave us that opportunity to be able to go catch up with the vendors at that point, didn't we? We spent most of day 1 at QuickBooks, and that's what we spent most of the day doing. Day 2, we got the opportunity to go and talk to the different vendors, and everyone was saying how busy the place was, how energetic the place was. And I'm yet to find someone, or especially from the vendor side, who had a disappointing Accountex.
Yeah. No, I think everyone did well out of Accountex. I think, like when we were chatting to Swoop, they were saying that their badge scans were down on previous years, but actually the quality of the conversation was up, and the number of actual meetings that they booked in to have was up. Brilliant. And ultimately, we can all go around scanning badges. That doesn't mean that person's interested in going to do a sale. It's the actual meetings that really matter.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. And we got the opportunity to kind of go around and talk to people. One of my favorite parts of that day was we went to see when we went back to the QuickBooks stand, and next to it was their main stage, sponsored by QuickBooks, stage whatever number it was. And there was Sage on stage talking away about, I don't know what the conversation topic was. I didn't see what they had won. I think Chris Downing was there, so it would have been one of the important ones, one of the big talks, and it's on the main stage as well.
Yeah,
we got Sage sat there, all 4 of their kind of big speakers there, sponsored by QuickBooks. So I thought
it's the little things that pleases, isn't it?
Yeah. No, that went down well. All right, awesome. So let's kind of go around. Speaking of vendors and everything, let's go around a couple of the vendors then, and what they announced, what was going on. QBO, easy for us, wasn't it? We knew that there was going to be no announcements there. I think it was just an opportunity to talk about what was announced in a bit more detail, and I think ultimately it seemed to go down well. One thing, shout out to them, they got swagger the event was passed to them. They got the best swag award. They kind of rehashed the game from the previous year where you put the ball and it drops down and goes into there. But they did have the outside thing though, and I think the outside thing worked quite well, didn't it? There's a little spinny,
spin the wheel type game. So yeah, that and the swag they were giving away, regardless of the method to get it, was they had their hoodies, they had their water bottles, then they had power banks, earbuds, like notepads, pens, stickers, badges. Like they had loads of good stuff, and the QuickBooks trainers. I always felt my little trainer collection was quite exclusive. I feel it's been cheapened slightly by just giving it away, but
if you got size 5 and below,
well, yeah. But yeah, it was lots of people were heading over because they'd heard the swag was good. So it was a great PR stunt from QuickBooks. And well done to Misha and the team that organized all of that and thought this would be good swag. because that was fantastic.
Yeah, and it definitely well deserved on that one, wasn't it? Let's go to some of the other big boys then. So Sage. So we've said a few times, haven't we, that for us, we feel that QuickBooks has QuickBooks Connect, Zero sometimes has Zero Con, depending on what year it is. Yeah, basically. Free Agent don't really need to have their own event, but they've always can go off the NatWest ones from time to time.
They do a roadshow of their own. They do exactly mini events, so that's fine.
So when you look at the big boys, they've kind of got their own events coming through. But with Sage, this is their event. This is their, for them, they want this to be known as SageCon, really, don't they? This is what they would like it to be. And definitely from a impressive stand point of view, wow, like they must win the stand of the award, of the show award.
Easily.
We've heard they spent a pretty penny on it, so kudos to them. But the stand looked very, very impressive. Yeah. One thing though that we didn't, or what I was expecting, was I was expecting a big announcement, like something. Acquisition probably unlikely, new feature more likely. There wasn't anything, was there? And that was quite surprising for saying this was their show, if you like.
Yeah. We'd heard a little rumor and buzz that there was buzz amongst the equity world that something was happening with some of the attendees at Accountex. It didn't turn out to be anything. There might be something in the coming weeks, or we've not got any names or anything like that. We just heard there was noise in the equity markets at the moment. But yeah, Sage certainly had the stand of the year. I mean, some of the numbers we heard that they'd been spending on it were phenomenal. It's big money, and I don't quite know how you get the return on investment there for that. But yeah, they put on a show, as they always do.
Well, I suppose the beauty of Sage is their ecosystem's so vast now that majority of accountants will be interested in some form of the Sage brand. So I suppose that's their return on investment, isn't it? It's about as soon as you walked in, they were one of the first stands there. They had that big umbrella, you kind of see where that came from. And, speaking of big stands, and I didn't put them on this list. Oh, I have done, but Hammock, I mean, that was a huge stand. We said it beforehand, didn't we? That we were shocked. Well, on the floor plan, it looked like it was an ambitious stand, but actually they went fully blown. I mean, maybe they were trying to make it Hammock Con, not just Zero Con. It was crazy, wasn't it? What was, again, there was no announcements there, was there? It was just more brand awareness that they were going for.
Sorry, I think my camera's just switched off.
That was so the there was no there was no big announcement. I think it was brand awareness, but return on investment, again, like the Sage one I can understand, fully get that. The Hammock one, are we missing something?
Yeah, from a Hammock point of view, I don't know where they were going to get their money from that event. Like, that was, it's a tough call for Hammock to spend that kind of money. Just from what I've seen of the landlord industry, the pain point's not big enough at the moment for landlords to go, yes, we're going to use tech.
Yeah, and like Stuart says here, like I met Hammock 2 years ago at DAS, and it was just a tiny round desk, and that's how we've known them. And we talk lyrically, we love their platform, we love their software. It's just like, wow, like that's. I mean, surely who's fallen away then? Was it the deck stand smaller this year compared to it? Is that the one that's fallen away? Because surely they never used to be 4 massive stages like that, did they? Or am I misthinking it?
I don't know. I think the Dex was about the same size as previous years. Maybe they got rid of a few small stands. Like, I don't know. It's an odd one.
It is. But well, hopefully, fingers crossed for them. It's it's done the numbers they need. I assume they've got a gold standard DAS, so maybe we'll get a chance to talk to them there and figure out exactly what's happened. So some of the big boys again, Zero. I mean, they were there and they had coffee machines everywhere. Again, no announcements. I don't believe there was any announcements. So yeah, it was more of a brand awareness more than anything else for them, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think just being there, I mean, they were there.
Yeah, and that's really all we can say. I mean, they still had their. You walked in, they had that impressive kind of walking through, and you can see it's 0, 0, 0, 0, all above it. So you had that there, didn't you? Was again, and actually they're saying how good Hammett was, and Paul saying that there was some mergers, some stands combined into two. So yeah, completely agree. Then we had one of the big ones, in my opinion, in terms of actual news. This year was light on vendor news, but Bright came with two big announcements, didn't they? So first of all was Bright Tax, which basically is BTC. So for those who don't know, BTC, which is a accounts production software, has now gone cloud-based, and Bright Tax was their big announcement for this particular account tax. I've played with it, used it. I am not overly impressed with it, but I think I'm not the right target audience if I think about it. I feel like Bright Tax is basically first and foremost making sure that they are keeping the Bright or the BTC hardcore users happy. I think that's what their first aim of the game is. Let's try and replicate what the BTC hardcore users like. Let's put it in the cloud. And fingers crossed they can innovate from there, because what I've used so far, I'm not overly happy or impressed with. But again, I'm not sure I'm quite the target audience for it. You didn't get a chance to have a look at it at all, did you?
No, it's BTC's never been on my radar really. So knowing what they've gone from to, and ultimately we're fairly happy with where we are at the moment for tax and accounts. It's not a software we're looking to change. Don't get me wrong, I'm not ecstatic. I'm not promoting it. What we've got, it does the job, and at the moment we've got other pain points we're focusing on. So I didn't take the time to have a look at Bright Tax, and we're not in that. We don't use any part of that ecosystem of theirs. So to tap into one bit would be tough.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, like, the dream is definitely there. Like, because we are, county manager is our practice management solution at the moment. The dream of an accounts production, payroll solution, everything talking to there is amazing. Like the idea that you send out a set of accounts and it just updates your task for you. Wow. Like, I'm sure Client Engager would love to have that functionality if they could make it work. It's just, there's so many barriers to entry, isn't there? But so many issues, so many problems that, yes, it's always on top of the list of we would want, but actually making it work is a whole different game, right?
Yeah. No. So if you look at how long it's taking Xero and QuickBooks and Co to get this right, it's a hell of a challenge. Like the fact that KPM has done it as well as they have, Nomi is giving it a good go. Tax Filer has been doing it for years on a very simple level, but it's functional. To deliver it in software was one thing. To deliver it in cloud seems to be a real challenge.
Definitely. I mean, we've seen it with QuickBooks, right? Like the resources they've got, everything they have, and it's not going to be an instant, a product that's going to be wow to everyone. It is going to be a slow burn to get you to place actually you need it to be. Like, if you want to use that QuickBooks accounts production software now, you're going to have to make compromises. Be it that a very small proportion of your client base is going to get service go forward if that's what you're going to go down. But yeah, like we can see how challenging it is. And Ashley just saying there about talking to BTC, what the main players in cloud tax and accounting. John's just said it. KPM, Nomi, they're the two kind of all encompassing. Everything's already there. And then from a cloud point of view, you've got this Iris Elements that seems to have lost its way a little bit. It seems to have kind of done a typical Iris. They've acquired the interesting platforms, then kind of not really developed them or pushed them through. So it's difficult. But back on topic with Bright Tax, it's hopefully, fingers crossed, it's an announcement that will get people thinking about it and kind of push them over. If you think about it now, their whole suite is now cloud-based, which is, thumbs up. That's what we wanted from them. That's good. It brings an ecosystem that some people are going to be really excited about. So that's cool to see. And kind of fingers crossed that, yes, the first release is maybe a little bit, traditional, if you like, but hopefully the people there can change that around and change it to something else. What they did release, though, was no news to me because I've been there beta testing it for a long time, but maybe news to some people. Was Bright Propose something that people was aware of? If were you aware of it, sort of thing?
I knew they were dabbling in something. How they've done it isn't quite what I was expecting them to do. I was expecting them to have something built into Accountancy Manager.
Yeah.
In the same regards that we've done that at Client Engager, that you've got the built-in proposal tool, as it were. They've built it as a standalone product, which fine, okay. That I suppose that gives them the opportunity to talk to the whole accounting market, rather than just the Accountancy Manager users. Which, fair play to them. That's a great idea. You look at Ignition, you look at Go Proposal. They aren't tied to just one CRM practice management tool. They're open to use them all. So yeah, it's a different approach to what I was expecting. I knew they were dabbling with something. There was rumors in the market that they've been dabbling with it for quite a while. So yeah.
To be honest, I'm just glad it's out now so I can talk about it, because it's been one of those where not being able to talk about it was killer. But I'm excited for the concept of it. I feel like at this point in time, that like you just said there, the whole idea is that they're trying to make sure that they've got that standalone product, so that if you're not an AM user, you could at least be interested in it, right? Get that, understand. And as you've just said there, the big competitors then straight away is Go Proposal, Ignition, and you kind of toe to toe with them.
Yeah.
If anything, they're not toe to toe with the likes of Client Engager now, because Client gone a different way. It's like you said, it's built in, so you can see where they're going. My concern is that they're focused too much on the competition and what the competition are doing, and they're not focused on what really their core audience would be. Because to me, to get this off the ground from day one, just make sure your accounting manager team users are happy. Like, make it work seamlessly with accounting manager. Make it so it's almost integrated, but it is a standalone product. That's fine. That to me would be the way where I'd assume you'd get more traction, and therefore you're going to get more people giving you feedback, and you'll get more people opportunity to develop it. And the more users you get, the more use of it, the better it's going to be overall. This tactic of it being completely standalone, meaning that things like your client engagement letters, for example, you're going to have to do them again. Like, they are not linked to accounting manager. So at the moment, you're kind of sending a proposal out with an engagement letter. The client signs the engagement letter, then you ask them to sign up to accounting manager, and then they sign another client engagement letter. Like, doesn't quite work as you'd expect it to work in that utopia of, well, this is a Bright product, so surely all things Bright must talk to one another. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And I just hope that sooner or later they get that bridge done, because I think without that, it's going to be a really hard sell, isn't it?
Yeah, without that deep integration with your own practice management tool, you are even more direct competition with Ignition and Go Proposal, because their tools haven't got that deep integration with any practice management tool.
Exactly.
So actually, Accountancy Manager are almost losing out here, because I don't think what they've launched is as powerful or as good as Go Proposal or Ignition. The winning factor for them, which would got them a huge audience straight away, is the ability for the deep dive into Accountancy Manager that no one else could have. You've ring-fenced that. That's your own unique thing, feature, and they seem to be forgetting that. Like, they've overlooked it. Like when we built our pricing tool last year, we had discussions about, do we spin it off as a separate thing that would be potentially free for client engager users and then chargeable for anyone else that wants to use it, but it wouldn't. And we just didn't think it had it wasn't as slick, it wasn't as well done as that market have done elsewhere in the form of Go Proposal, Ignition, PandaDocs, etc. So we said, no, we'll just have it built in, really integrated into the whole system, and not worry about, people that might want to use our proposal tool to then run the practice management in Accountancy Manager or Center, whatever it is. So yeah, I feel like they've made a boo-boo here.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? I also feel like the buzz around it and excitement around it of a new product, like you want to be pushing your front forward for your best foot forward, right? And I just felt like if they'd have just shown it as this beautifully integrated solution and it helps onboarding and it goes from there, I just felt like there would be more people being able to really push it. But now it's a good product, don't get me wrong, but there's this compromise but there's this, and it's felt like they've released it with a but, and that's a shame when it's a brand new product from scratch. Like, the BTC to Bright tax, I can almost give them a pass on that one because that's legacy, right? Like, they've got a really fine line between people like me being happy and like when I did my beta testing for them, I gave them an honest and quite scathing review. But actually, when I think about it, again, that wasn't for me, right? I can give them a pass on that. It was designed really for the BTC users. Like, get them right first. Like, clearly they want to be happy first. They're the ones you want to be looking after. But when it's a brand new product, you want to be releasing it without the but, don't you? And I think that's what the unfortunate thing. What we won't go into exactly the pricing because I don't think they quite have nailed those pricing points yet. And to be fair, like, well, the price is the price, right?
Yeah.
What is worrying though that also came with that is that there's potentially going to be a limit to how many proposals you can send out, all that sort of thing. Those sort of things are just, again, feel restrictive, feel like it's, go proposal, do it their way, whatever. That's what they want to do. We don't need a competitor toe for toe for Go Proposal. We just need something else. Like, I'm waiting for one of these that are going to charge per proposal, whatever. Why not change the way and why not be a bit of a disruptor? And maybe we only charge you if you win the job, for example. That'd be a new novel concept, right? Yeah. But there's no seems to be wanting to disrupt it other than like Client Engage just gave it for free and like you can have it. But if you're going to charge for it, then surely we need to change the way that charging for proposals is done, not just follow the route of it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think would be interesting for these standalone ones to do is a lot of people moan that they're paying for Ignition or Go Proposal or Bright Proposal, whatever they're going to use, on a subscription basis. But they're not sending out proposals on a monthly basis. So actually, is it value for money for them? Whereas if actually you just charged a fixed amount for each proposal you send out, or you charged a percentage of the fee that you win off that proposal, then I think that's justified. Like if someone said to me, you can use this amazing tool to send out proposals and it's going to help you win more proposals, and we back that and we are so confident it's going to help you win more proposals, we're not going to charge you unless you win a proposal, at which point we're going to take a percentage of that fee that you're generating because we helped you get that fee. They take it from a commissions basis. I think that could be a game changer.
Yeah. And as Ashley said, it, that would work really well. Make sure that you're nailing the deal. And I we need a disruptor like that.
It's the product owner standing by their product.
Exactly. And it gives them an opportunity to show that this is why to try us. Like, try something different. Like, GoPro's done their thing for so long now, right? It's done. It's a feature-rich product at this point in time to target them and to go now toe to toe with them, they're going to have to bring something different. Hopefully, I don't think the pricing has been 100% nailed on yet. So hopefully, there's an opportunity to bring something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I like the idea of a scaling fee based on what they win. That almost feels like you're kind of giving away too much information to them. But yeah, whichever works, I'm happy with that.
I mean,
cool.
Without being too horrible to accountancy manager, because this is my overall scathing remark to the whole industry at the moment, is you can tell this has been built with a return on investment for the investors in mind. Because if accountancy manager wanted just uptake and proof of the concept, this would be free of charge for any accountancy manager users. It would be added value, but it's not. Like everyone, if you're using accountancy manager, you're going to have to pay for this bolt-on. At which point you have to ask yourself, right, is it worth however much they're going to charge to send however many proposals a month they're letting you send out, versus using a spreadsheet to calculate the price and then putting that into accountancy manager and sending out a basic letter of engagement from there. That's too many decisions for a firm owner to have to make.
Yeah, and in fairness, I know they're talking about a Bright ID / market store / you could buy the whole ecosystem, and I assume if you buy the whole ecosystem, you're going to get some discount. I get that, but you're right. It's too many decisions to make, and I suppose their argument is that it makes it more scalable. But then, at what point do you decide that actually winning new works you're at that level where you can afford to win? You know what I mean? It's almost like that should be one of the first ones, as well as accounts, practice management tool.
I mean, don't get me wrong. They can carry on doing what they want to do the way they're doing it at the moment, because it makes it an easier win for client engagement.
Yeah, true.
Right. So you're using accountancy manager. You've got X amount of clients. You've got how many staff? Right. So you're now paying, so let's say 4 staff. So you're paying 120 quid a month to accountancy manager. You're probably paying half of that to client engager. Oh, you want the proposal tool as well? Well, that's another however much a month they're going to put on top of that. Plus, if you want to send out more proposals than they're letting you do, there's probably going to be a surcharge.
Yep.
Oh no, we've got all that built in.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
they, as much as I'd love them to listen to this and go, these guys have made a really good point, we need to disrupt the market. From a client engager point of view, carry on as you are, because we'll come in and disrupt the market. Everything we're doing is added value. We're not building or planning to build anything that increases the price to use our product.
Yeah, 100%. And Paul makes a good point that, for the year he used GoPropose, he lost more clients and we're not using them. But as he does say, that is related to more of his clients than and his audience for his clients than anything else. But a good proposal solution should be something that helps anyone in the practice be able to sell the product. That's where I see that's where proposal becomes important to me, right? When you start scaling your practice and it's not just you going out there trying to win work and you're having to rely on your staff to get that proposal right each and every time, that's where the bread and butter comes for me. And that's where, I'm hopeful that that's where they can bring that in. Okay, cool.
And my firm sent out 2 proposals last week without any intervention from me.
Exactly.
Now, I know when I look at my team's close rate, I am a better deal closer than the rest of my team. But exactly. I've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
I know how to, I know what to say and how to say it. These guys are still learning.
Yeah.
But at least they've got the tool to enable them to learn to do it and have the confidence what they're quoting is right.
And Bright Payroll was, that's exactly it, wasn't it? It was a disruptor. Matthew says here, it surprised me. Bright pricing policy as Bright was very competitive when they launched Bright Payroll. It was a huge disruptor to the industry. It was like at the time it was just Sage Payroll, really, wasn't it? Which was obscenely expensive for what it was. And Bright Payroll came in and just like, hold my beer, and you can get all that plus more at a lot less. It's an odd one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Quickly run through some other announcements just so that we've got them cleared. KPM had a charity account. I'm not 100% sure on this, but when I tested their charity account, It was only in their bookkeeping module, which kind of put me off a little bit, if I'm completely honest. According to the press release, it's also accounts production as well. So fingers crossed on that one. That if they do that, if that's what they've done, if that press release is right, then that is a brilliant thing, because that's first to market to have proper charity accounts, and that's a massive, massive plus. And really, really good string to their bow. Iris released extends elements. We were talking off air. We have no idea what the actual release was. It seems like they've just kind of put everything back into that Elements one, which was already happened. So unless they've just accelerated that, whatever they've brought in their extension to Iris Element. Effectively, it's the final nail in the coffin, pretty much, to Tax Filer, isn't it? That's pretty much gone now. Anyone who is on Tax Filer, I really would just count your days at this point. Don't know how long you've got left until you get moved over, forced at gunpoint. But yeah, that just seems to be what it is. We went to see our favorites. So Cresco, Swoop, we've already mentioned, Swoop itself, but Cresco, good presence, and fingers crossed we got a breakthrough with them and QuickBooks, didn't we? That could be the big news of it. So hopefully, fingers crossed. Well, at least we got people talking to the right people. And there were some new boys there as well on that Apron, as we've already mentioned. Big shout out to them. And how we say in the other software, the decks on steroids, what we call them,
Aurelia, something like that.
That's the one. They were the other one that we had a bit of a social media interaction with. So
interesting concept. We'll see how they deliver in the coming months.
Exactly. Yes, we've got some things out. I mean, we ran out of time, but one of the big conversation topics was going to be, is AI a fad or not? Because we want to talk about that, but we can save that for next week. So in fact, any questions, please do put them in the question box. I'm going to stick that in there, because we may be thinking that AI was a bit of a fad. We were really excited about it last week.
I wasn't.
Were you?
I didn't think AI was a fad.
No. Sorry. In the concept of what was released.
Oh, right.
I should be, yeah. Because we were really excited, but it feels like what has been released so far, not quite what we were expecting. And I think there's definitely room for a lot more to come back on that one. So fingers crossed, because we really do, we want to see it come through. We want to see the excitement side of things, but it just doesn't feel like what was released is what we were expecting. But it's early days, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you do have any questions, especially with items like that there, Kirsty, stick them in the question box. I've just put the thing there and we can talk about it there. Final bit, we had a bit of a poll on LinkedIn, a quick poll for Accountex in the UK about Accountex 2023 in London last week. The answers were: I didn't attend Accountex, I attended and I was glad I did, and I attended and I wish I hadn't. 31% said they didn't attend Accountex. Seems about right, doesn't it? There's a lot of FOMO, wasn't there, unfortunately, with people not there. I attended and I'm glad I did was a massive 63%, so that's got to be good. 6% said I attended and wish I hadn't. I'm not going to name names. I think I can know one person who wished they didn't attend, but that's one for another day. Well, maybe not another day, or maybe we can never say that off air. I think if we ever do an after party of Ask the Accountant, then do come up to me and I'll explain exactly who I saw walking around by themselves. And I definitely feel like they were one of the 6%. Wonderful. Anything else you want to finish on there, Johann, before we wrap up?
Savage there, isn't it? No, I mean, overall, what a fantastic week. Let's talk about some of the AI announcements next week.
Yeah.
We did have a quick look. We're going to have a bit more of an in-depth look this week at what's going on, what they're announcing. Overall feeling, Kirsty, is it's a bit of a PR stunt and a bit of a soft touch at this moment in time for now. But the opportunities that, like what Carbon and Pixie are talking about in the future is phenomenal. It's really exciting. And if that's where the whole industry goes, that's, really exciting. But yeah, and of course, Ashley, we cannot wait to join you until on Wednesday for the 15 minutes with the LinkedIn guy talking about Accountex. And there's some fantastic people on that session, not just Aaron and I, but actually other people whose opinions you will probably want to listen to more than ours.
Yeah, we're the B crowd for that one. If you think about who's turning up for that one, we really can't wait for that. So yeah, everyone, please do get your diaries out, get yourself in. 12:30. Have I made that up? Is that right?
12:30 is correct on Wednesday.
12:30 on the
All over
Wednesday.
LinkedIn.
We are looking forward to it. And Ash, if you have got a link, please put it in the chat now, and we'll copy and paste it galore. So Johann, while we're waiting for potentially Ashley to put a little comment in, have you got anything planned for this week other than obviously Wednesday?
Other than Wednesday, no. Just busy week. Lots going on in the firm. Lots going on at Client Engager. So just trying to keep all my plates spinning.
It's always the issue, isn't it? When you come back from Accountex, it's that first look at the thing. I don't know about you. I needed a couple of days off just to recover. Because on Friday we were out again and didn't get time to properly go in. We had a quick look, but I was just kind of that fear of opening up and seeing how many emails were truly there. It was but it's all done. It's all good. And yeah, Accountex just gone from strength to strength, hasn't it? So the season is well and truly on. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of ones.
Digital Accountancy Show, less than a month. We'll be there.
Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. With that, though, that has been today. Ask the Accountant. As always, we go live at 8:30 on a Monday. Why not come and speak to us like everyone has been in the comments? It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you for all your comments today. Thank you for everyone who attended Accountex as well and came to our little session. We appreciate each and every one of you. That will be going live as well, so you might be able to see your little faces on there as well. Don't forget that you can also watch or sign up to us on the podcast service of your choice, which go live on a Wednesday. With that, then, that is the end of today's chat. Thank you very much, Johann.
Thank you.
Hope you have a good week.
And you.
And with that, we will speak to you all this time next week. Bye for now.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.